We are going to talk for a couple of minutes this morning. If you've been with us the last few weeks, you know that we are in the middle of a series right now that we're calling Big. And it's really appropriate for what we have just experienced because it's all about family and it's about relationships. And the question that we're asking right now is, what are the big things that we need to instill in our kids and our grandkids while they are still young? And maybe if you don't have kids or grandkids in the home right now, maybe the question is, what are the things that I should have learned a long time ago that I haven't been living out that maybe I need to start living out now? And so that's what we're wrestling with right now. If you were here with us last week, you know that one of the things that we said last week was we said that the rules aren't really that big of a deal. And some of you as parents still came back anyway. So I really appreciate that. Now, honestly, the full thing that we said was we said that knowing God is so much more important than just knowing the rules. And we wanted to take a new look at the way that we relate to God, the way that we teach our kids to relate to God, because it is all about relationship. It's more about relationship than it is just about following the rules. And so while we last week said, who is God? What is a relationship with God like? This week, the big thing that we're going to be talking about, instilling into our own lives and into the lives of those around us, is this question of, who am I? I'm guessing that at some point in time in your life, you've probably asked that question, the identity question. Who am I really? You know, who am I in terms of my friends, in terms of my family? How do I fit? How do I work in this scenario? And so this morning, I just want us to pause, and we're going to do this really quickly, but I just want us to pause for a minute and ask that question. Who am I? And how can I start to, as a parent or as a grandparent, instill the right kind of identity into my children and into my grandchildren? And so in order to do that, we're going to look at a passage in the book of Philippians in just a minute. But like I said, I know all of you guys have wrestled with this at some point. We've all asked the question, who am I, at some point. Some of us are asking that as children, and you know, some of us continue to ask that question as adults. That's why there's this whole thing called midlife crisis, right? I know that most of us are not old enough to have gone through a midlife crisis yet. Yeah, right. But that's a question of who am I? It's an identity question that we struggle with through life. I remember when I was a kid, and I'll just share a part of my who am I wrestling with you this morning, but I remember when I was a kid, there was a point, probably 5th grade, somewhere around there, where I started paying attention to other people and thinking about what are they thinking about me, and I wanted to shape my own identity. And my grandmother would take me and she would take my sisters every year before school started. She would take us out to go clothes shopping so that we could get new clothes for school. And I remember this one particular year, like I said, around 5th grade, where I finally decided I'm going to set my identity. I'm going to make a statement this year. And my way of making a statement was I decided I am going to just wear black jeans. That wasn't a thing then, it's not a thing now, you know, but I was going to make it a thing. And so I tried to talk my mom into, or my grandmother into buying just black jeans for me, and she was smart enough to just buy one pair of black jeans. And I did that for like 6 months, and I finally decided, this isn't it. You know, this isn't me. I'm not going to start the goth movement. I'm not going to, you know, I've got to figure out something else. And so around that time, I had a friend who had this hair that was spiked. And it wasn't like a mohawk. I mean, he had normal hair, but the front part of the hair just kind of all stood up right here. And I thought, oh, that's cool. You know, I'm going to do that too. And so I went to the barber, and I remember telling the barber what I wanted. And apparently the barber was no more cool than I was because he said, okay, well, let's do this. And he got me to part my hair in the middle. And basically, instead of having this spike, I had the flat hair down with the part in the middle for the next couple of years, and that became who I was for the next couple of years. You know, and we all go through these things where we wrestle with, what is my identity? What is this all about? But you know, I think if we're going to do well as parents and as grandparents, as teachers, as aunts and uncles, if we're going to do well to instill the right values in our kids, I think it is important for us to help shape our children and grandchildren's identities. So in order to do that, to show you a way to do that, I want us to look at Philippians chapter 2. Like I said a second ago, we'll just look at this very quickly this morning. But as we get to Philippians chapter 2, let me just tell you the context, because this really helps you understand where this is coming from. In Philippians, Philippi is a city where a guy named Paul and a few others had started a church. It's a fairly new church. It's a few years old now. Eventually, Paul goes off. He goes a different direction and starts other churches. Eventually, Paul is arrested and thrown in prison. And the church at Philippi hears about this, and they want to encourage Paul, so they send him a gift, and they send it through a guy named Epaphroditus. One of the beauties of the Bible in the church is that if you are looking for baby names, Epaphroditus is probably one nobody else has in the school that your kids are going to, so just throwing that out for you. But they send this gift for Epaphroditus to Paul, and Paul, in response, writes a letter to them, thanking them for their gift and just encouraging them. And that's what we know as the book of Philippians. So chapter 1 of Philippians, Paul is going through and he's just saying, hey, don't be sad for me. Yeah, I'm in prison, but I have everything that I need. He said, other than my freedom, I have everything that I want. I can still share the love of God with people. I can keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing, so don't be sad for me. And then in chapter 2, he jumps to a point where he's saying, I want to tell you as a congregation, as a church, one big thing that you need to pay attention to. Really what he's telling them here is he's saying this is what your identity should be shaped around. In other words, he's saying if you want true satisfaction in life, it's not going to be found around what you get. It's not going to be found necessarily in your accomplishments. If you want true satisfaction in life, it's going to come from this one thing that I am about to share with you. It's a radically important idea that Paul is sharing with the church, but I believe it should be the thing that shapes all of our identities. This is what we should instill in our children. So just read this with me. Verse 1, it says this: if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any fellowship with the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded and having the same love, being one in spirit and purpose. I know there are a lot of religious-sounding phrases there. And so just to clarify what he's saying if you have any connection to Jesus, if you are following the Jesus way, if you are a part of a church, if you consider yourself a Jesus follower, he's saying, then do this for me. Be like-minded in this one area. He's not saying you have to agree on everything. He's not saying you all have to think the same. He's saying in this one area, I want you to be like-minded. I want you to have the same identity in this one area. So verse 3, he unfolds for us what that is. He says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility consider others better than yourselves. Each of you should look not only to your own interest, but also to the interest of others. I don't know if that hits you, but what he's saying is absolutely huge. He's saying if you want to experience true satisfaction from life, if you want your kids and your grandkids to experience true satisfaction in life, it's not just about saving up a big inheritance to leave to them. That's not where they're going to find satisfaction. He says, if you want them to really experience life the way that God wants them to experience it, teach them to serve. True satisfaction in life is found in serving. And this is the thing, it's so easy to pass over this when we're raising our kids or our grandkids. It's so easy to teach them to enjoy so many things in life, but never really think about this here. But this is where true satisfaction comes from, is serving. If you move on with me in my story of my identity and how I've been shaped over the years, I remember when I was a freshman in college, I went on a trip with a Christian group from the college to San Francisco, California. I had no idea that later on God would take me back to San Francisco and I would live there for a number of years. But we went on this trip, and as part of this trip, we connected with an organization that served the homeless. I don't know if you've ever paid attention to homeless populations, but in San Francisco there's a large homeless population, and it just makes sense because San Francisco is like the low for the year is like 50 degrees, the high for the year is like 80 degrees. If you're going to pick a place to live outside, that's it, right? That's where you want to be. And so there's a large homeless population in San Francisco. In fact, they jump on trains and travel from Chicago or across the country to get to San Francisco so that they will have a better climate to live in. And so we had a chance to go out, take hot meals out, and find these people on the streets and share a meal with them and just talk to them for a while. And there are all different reasons that these people would have been homeless. I mean, it's any variety of things that you can imagine. But as we did that, I just remember something changed for me. Something started to shift where from that point forward, it was not about the look. It was not about the black jeans. It was not about the spiked hair. I really started to recognize that real fulfillment comes from serving, comes from finding people that need help and from loving them well. It comes from finding where God is already working in people's lives and joining Him in what He is doing to serve them. And that just changed every day for me. Can you imagine what would happen in this church community? Can you imagine what would happen in Wellington if we raised our kids and our grandkids with the mindset that a big part of my identity, a big thing that shapes me into who I am, is that I am going to love the unlovable people well. I'm going to love the outcast well. I'm going to love those who have less and who are less fortunate well. Can you imagine what would happen around us if we raised a generation of kids who had it as their identity that we want to serve well? If this is your first time at Trailhead, one of the things that we try to do here is we try to take ideas like this and make them really practical. We don't want to just give you good ideas from Scripture and say, okay, now think about that and go home. What we want to do is we want to say, here's how we can put that into practice. And so as we wrap up this morning, I just want to share with you a few ways that you might be able to do this with your kids, with your grandkids, with those that you are influencing right now. One of the things that you could do, and this isn't life-changing stuff in terms of new ideas, but one of the things you could do is, what if your family just scheduled time to serve? What if you just build this into your routine in life? I mean, let's be honest, all of us are busy, right? If we want to do this kind of stuff, we have to build it in. What if you decided, not only are we going to build this in, but we're going to do it on the day that typically is all about us. What if you decided to take your kids or your grandkids on Christmas Day to a homeless shelter? And allow your kids to connect with other kids who are struggling with homelessness on Christmas Day. What if you took your kids and allowed them to serve with you at a soup kitchen for a day? What would happen in your child's life if they started to experience that? Not just to be told you need to serve, but to actually go and do it. Where you're going with them, you're demonstrating how it works. What would that do to your child's identity if they saw this is what matters and this is where true fulfillment comes from in life? I think it could do incredible things, not only for your child, but for our community, if this is the thing that we were instilling in our children from early on. You may say, well, I try to do that, I'm not good at that kind of stuff. What if instead of just scheduling time to serve, what if we also started talking to our children about utilizing their resources to love other people well? And I know you may say, well, my kids don't have resources. Chances are they've got a piggy bank of some sort, right? Or some toys that they have been given. They have something that is theirs in their possession that they could use to serve others, right? What if, just dream with me for a second. What if we started telling our kids right now, I want you to join me in thinking about the ways that we can use our resources to serve other people. On Christmas Eve here at Trailhead, we, just because of numbers we've had in the past and because of the way that things have gone, we kind of expect that there will be at least 300 people here on Christmas Eve. And during that time, we're going to take up a special offering that will, every bit of it, every dime of it will be sent out to people that are in need. We're going to be supporting 5 organizations that are working with people that are in these kinds of situations, or that are helping provide food, or that are caring for orphans in Mexico, or even foster families, foster kids here in Wellington. And so what we're doing is we're saying, hey, come participate with us in serving through your resources. So just imagine this. 300 people, and that includes kids. What if all 300 of us, including our kids, said, you know what, we are going to contribute $20 a piece to this. And maybe we have to help our kids a little bit. Chances are they're going to get more than that in gift cards and everything else for Christmas, right? But what if $20 a piece? What does that do? Well, you're probably way better at math than I am. But if I add that up right, if I multiply that right, 300 times 20 is $6,000 that can be used to directly serve people in need, to share the love of God with people that are desperately needing it. What if we included our kids in that? What if we didn't just say, yeah, that sounds great, I think I'll do that. What if we said, I am going to get my children involved in this to help them understand that true satisfaction in life is not found in what I get, but true satisfaction in life is found in how I can serve others. That's a big idea that we need to instill in our children. That's a big idea that for a lot of us we need to actually get for the first time. There's no better time than the Christmas season for us to do this with our families, for us to do this with our church community. What if we truly taught our kids that satisfaction in life comes not from getting, but from serving? It can change everything. That should be our identity. That should be what we're raising our kids to understand. Let's go ask God to help us.